Welcome to International Securities Exchange's podcast series. Facilitated by renowned educators, ISE podcasts are intended to teach beginning as well as seasoned investors the ins and outs of trading. To find an updated list of podcasts, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts. Please be sure to listen to our important message following this episode regarding the risks of investing in exchange-traded options.
On that note, I think that with FX options, you probably are going to have a little bit less of the kind of, bang for your buck, if you will, that you're going to have with spot Forex trading. But on the other hand, that could be also a good thing because it could be a little bit slower and more steady type of trading environment. So it depends on the individual. It's a great way to trade both of the vehicles, either the spot or FX options. And I like to trade FX options as a way to actually hedge positions on a spot. That's one of the ways that I like to do things.
Makes sense. Raghee, do you mind answering this question?
Sure. In a nutshell, whenever I trade an option, or buy an option, I should say, I always remember that what I'm engaging in is a three-dimensional vehicle. I'm talking about managing not just price in terms of intrinsic, which I could do with the underlying market. If I wanted to, get an option in stock, I'm still really having to look at the underlying stock chart itself, not just looking at the Greeks or whatnot. If I'm doing it in a futures, same thing. So when I'm doing it in FX, again, you guys know as far as my timing goes what I prefer, but again, remember, it's not just intrinsic value and you're after. The real key, as the question posed, is the volatility. And obviously the volatility to me is where you can benefit from getting into an option versus being in the underlying market. So it really goes back to knowing which vehicle is going to be right. Is it right to be in an option? Is it right to be in the underlying market? And that goes back to taking advantage of market cycles, because in a volatile move, you could benefit a lot from the volatility aspect, that dimension of having an option where you really won't get much more than that dollar-for-dollar move out of the underlying spot. So the last element would be time. So we're talking about intrinsic, we're talking about volatility, and finally time. Time is probably the only element that's going to be new to somebody in options and they don't have to deal with the underlying market, where it's like having a coupon for 50 cents off milk. At some point that thing's going to expire and become worthless. So you always have to be very careful of that time decay, that time element. But again, if you can learn to benefit from the volatility, in other words, buy during low volatility, sell during high, that's going to be your best shot for taking advantage of options. And if you're just looking for that intrinsic, I think you're better off with the underlying market, just getting into the spot. So just find which is going to be right for you. From a risk management standpoint, the options are certainly going to be a little bit more manageable. Your worst case scenario well ahead of time.
Very well put, Raghee. Very well put. I mean, I teach options. That's what my job is, teaching options at the International Securities Exchange. And I love that the 50 cents off coupon on milk. I actually talk about sometimes pizza coupons. It's essentially, some people get so wrapped up in options, they think it's so overwhelming, they don't want to get involved. But like you said, Raghee, it really makes sense. If you think that the asset's going to get more volatile, the options market is the place to be. If you don't think it's going to get more volatile, maybe not. But it's always about trying to pick the right tool. I just want to thank both of you. There is two more things. Well, first thing I want to say is that the ISE FX options is dollar relative. So we get this question. In fact, I'm seeing it from Lydia about, if I'm bearish on the U.S. dollar, what do I buy, a call or a put? Think of it this way. This is a product based on the U.S. dollar. So think of it in those terms. Even though we're calling it dollar yen is yuck, it's how is the U.S. dollar doing relative to another currency, let's say the yen. If I'm bullish on the dollar, then I'm buying a call. If I think the dollar is going to decline or devalue, I'd be buying a put. So I hope that helps. But you can go to the ISE website, www.ise.com/FX or /podcast to get any of the presentations. Again, here are all the the different places you can go. I also want to remind everyone, allthingsforex.com, that Ilian site, has tons of information. Raghee.com, Raghee has all kinds of information, and she does a lot of different, she is in a lot of different businesses. She travels, she speaks. She'll be in Vegas, so go and check that out. And you can go and hear her. I think she's doing Raghee, it's like a 4-hour presentation early September. Is that correct, in Vegas?
In Vegas, yeah, we'll be doing a Thursday presentation, a Friday, and we'll be doing the ISE presentation as well. That's
correct. So tons of stuff you could see there. If you look at your screen, please try to take those URLs down. Again, it's all ISE, so you can do that. But just as importantly, allthingsforex.com, Raghee.com, and we have some next week. We'll have, not next week, but in September, Tony Hansen will be with us. Kathy Lean, Jason Ayers. We have Raghee's coming back in October, and so we have a wealth of information right at your fingertips. It's all free. I just want to thank the both of you. I think that we gave the attendees a lot of information, and again, we answered tons of questions. So on the behalf of the International Securities Exchange, I want to thank Ilian Yotov and Raghee Horner. Thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you all, the attendees, for joining us. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you, Raghee.
Nice meeting you, Ilian. Thank you, gang.
Same here. My pleasure.
Have a great trading day, everyone. Thanks again, and please come back in 2 weeks and join us for another edition of the ISE webinar series. This is your host, Steve Meisinger, saying good night on behalf of the International Securities Exchange.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. To find more podcasts on options, stocks, alternative markets, and market data, please visit www.ise.com/podcasts.